as boring as it sounds, it always comes down to your contracts, because a contract is there in place to protect yourself and your business. So if you don't have a contract in place that protects yourself, you see a lot of these builders who are undercutting themselves. They're going really low to win the tender. So if you undercut yourself that much, and then the cost of materials has gone up, cost of labor has gone up as well. So they end up going, if you're going to specialize in a particular area, just stick to your specialty in some ways. And it comes with construction. There are so many different trades.
In the silent mornings where no building stands complete, unseen forces press against every beam and joint. A sudden cost escalation, a strain in cash flow, or a breach in contract, and an entire project can feel like it's teetering on the edge of collapse. In the episode of Building Doors, we step into the pressure chamber of the construction world, the legal minefields, the insolvency tipping points, and the stories that never make the headlines. Today, we bring a voice that has worked through that terrain and who can show us how to anticipate cracks before they open. Today's guest has walked the lines between building ambition and legal brinkmanship. He's the kind of lawyer who's seen both sides of collapse and come back. From the construction company caught short by surging costs through to restructuring that hands it a second win. Paul has spent years working with administrators, liquidators, builders, directors and creditors, and often in the eye of the legal storm. In this episode, we're going to cover why insolvency and risk are so relevant to the construction industry today, how to unpack the risks, debunk the myths, and understand the hidden warning signs for leaders and business owners. If you've ever wondered what it takes to stay afloat against the odds, this episode's for you. Welcome to the Building Doors podcast. Thanks so much for coming on as a guest. I was really keen, when so Phil DeBella introduced us and then we'd had an opportunity to have a chat. And when you told me about the statistics around how many construction businesses become insolvent and some of the challenges there, I had to get you on to talk to you about that. But before we get stuck into some of that sort of more granular stuff, tell me about your career journey. So a little bit about what led to you founding businesses and doing the work that you do now.
Yeah, sure. I pretty much got admitted as a lawyer in my early 20s, and I took off straight to London, worked there for a few years, and came back with the GFC. And then there was a lot of work pre-GFC, and as soon as GFC hit 2008, all Australian lawyers came back and started my firm probably about 15 years ago now with RCR, and also started Construction Support Australia. I've got a couple of businesses like declaration as well. I guess my area has always been, I would say that I'm a commercial litigation lawyer. As always, that's what I say I am. But because of the area that I'm involved in, I do a lot of construction disputes, and construction just comes hand in hand with insolvency and debt recovery, which is the other area which I do, which I have a declaration company in Melbourne.
How many companies do you have all up?
Just the three for now.
The three. And so explain each of them to me. So you've got the legal practice.
Legal practice, debt collection, which always come hand in hand together. Most law firms have, I guess, like a share or part of a debt collection company.
Sure.
And Construction Support Australia, which I've only just started this year, is more because I saw like a gap in the market where I feel like a lot of law firms are transactional, and they have to keep trying to find the next client, everything else. When what I'm trying to develop is a subscription model for legal services, and particularly in the SME market for builders, which I feel like they're struggling the most in terms of what's happening at the moment. Having a subscription legal model to provide the right service for them at the right price and no hidden costs and everything else.
Yeah. Okay. So, and before we get stuck into talking more about some of those issues you have been seeing, why do you want to be a lawyer?
I don't know. I guess I used to watch the movies all the time and think law looked really cool back in the day, and I guess it's also I've always been good at English and I love history and everything else. Asking maths equations is terrible, so it fitted my personality. I've always
Have you had your Law and Order moment?
Law and Order moment.
Like, have you had the opportunity to be at the stand, and has it ever felt like what you saw in the movies, or is it really, really different?
No, it's very different. I mean, I still go to court every now and then. I don't do many appearances like I used to, but it is very different to the movies. Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a shame.
Yeah.
but at least it gets you thinking about that as a career path. And
it definitely does. Yeah. And
why construction? Like, that's another area. Like, you've obviously doing so much work in the legal space in construction. was it through demand that you moved into that space, or what was it about our sector that interests you?
My father worked in mines, and I guess he's also a labourer as well. So I knew the area so well already, and I guess in demand as well. So kind of not that I specifically wanted to go into that particular area, but I just fell into it, and it just it was an area which I could relate very much to builders and tradies and everything else, and I understand the kind of terminology.
What was it like? You've come back from the UK and founded a legal practice, so you had to kind of build networks, build a client base, and do everything coming back from overseas when you did found the business.
Yeah.
What did you learn from that? Because I want to talk about that, because so many people look to start their own business, and some of the challenges they have, which they don't foresee, is clients, key account management, all of that
Cash
piece.
flow.
Cash flow.
Yeah.
Cash is king,
Huge.
right?
In every business, cash is king. It's it's a very learning experience along the ways, and you pick up things as you go along. And I guess some people have that mentality. They want to have a business and they want to grow. I had that mentality, and set up the Sydney office we had for a while, but we sold that off, and after a few years. But I guess I always saw myself as someone that wanted to run my own business and have my own direction.
Did anything surprise you? I've got my own thoughts on this. Did anything surprise you that you didn't expect to be so challenging when you started a business?
It's just you can't go to anyone else to there's no one else above you to get an answer from. So you literally you're the one who's at that point to get the answer from. So it gets quite challenging after a while. But you get I guess after a few years, just how could I say? It becomes more of a flow. You just get used to just having to call the shots, and then you like as yourself, Lauren, you probably then go, well, I'm never going to answer everyone else again.
No. Well, and then the other thing is like you don't know, but over time through trial and error as well, you learn, as well as drawing on your network for the areas you don't know, or counsel or advice.
Absolutely.
Is really important.
I'm not sure if your industry is the same, but we rely heavily on referral. So having those referral arrangements with accountants or professional services and everything else, we rely heavily on referrals.
And well, I also feel like when you start a business, the challenge there is building those networks that you don't feel like you have to have all the answers either. That you've got trusted advisors and people around you that can help you in the areas that you might not have the expertise.
Absolutely.
How did you grow? Was it mainly referrals, or what was your strategy for growing the business in the way that you have too?
Done a lot of acquisitions of smaller law firms. I've always been in the model like I try to find, I guess, senior practitioners that had no succession plan. So we've been quite successful over years. We've done about 7 or 8 where you go find a senior practitioner, no succession plan. They've got no one else to give the firm to. We come along and say, well, look, I'm happy to make an arrangement where you either come and merge with us or buy your firm. With your client base, you can stay on as a special counsel or as a consultant, and you work your way out to retirement. So it's more like a merge to retire kind of model.
Oh, that's interesting.
And it's actually worked quite well.
Yeah, so you didn't actually go, your strategy wasn't, I'm going to go look at the market segment and then try and build those. Yours was like, okay, who already has some of these relationships and clients that we can acquire as well and grow that way.
And that's how we grew into different areas as well, like not just litigation, but commercial property. That's how we set up the Sydney office as well.
Yeah. Okay. And that would have taught you a lot, which is helpful for your
big learning curve.
Yeah. What'd you learn from that experience? Because you're bringing in different cultures, different ways of working, and people that have worked on their own for a very long time,
Yeah, look, I learned a lot from the senior practitioners. I think and they're set in their ways as well, and some of the clients are really sticky, really good clients, and it's been, I guess it's been a great experience, and I enjoy having a senior lawyer that comes through this transition and he's happy to, say goodbye to his clients and everything else, and he's in good hands. I still catch up with a lot of them. I got one that, he just travels around fishing around Australia all the time, and he comes and sees me every 3 to 4 months for a coffee,
nice.
or for a steak and a beer.
Yeah,
it's good.
Yeah, that's a really interesting model and a way of growing the business, and so I'm glad you shared that approach. So let's talk about construction now, and what you're seeing. So I want you to start with sharing with me. You shared with me some stats when we spoke previously around where we're sitting. So how are we looking from an insolvency point of view at the moment?
Solvency, we're at the highest ever in history at the moment in solvency.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're talking about construction with insolvency, it's always good just to remind everyone that the economy is still trying to recover from the after effects of COVID. And I think a lot of people forget about it. It's like COVID's like 2020. It's like, it's been 5 years. Can you believe it's been 5 years?
Yeah, I know. Time's flying.
As time has flown, but we're still trying to recover from the after effects. And I guess in insolvency, you always talk about this 4-year lag. It takes 4 years for the economy to kick in from the event.
Mm-hmm.
So when the GFC happened, for example, you had all the government fundings. The government has to step in to try to help the economy. So I remember they had like the housing installations. They had all these different kind of government funding available. But insolvency didn't really kick into around 2012. And then it hit really hard in 2012, 13. We're seeing the same thing again now with COVID, where it's hit 2020, 2021. You got wage keeper, you got, again, all the government funding, the ATO stopped collecting tax. You had the moratorium period, you had the relaxation provisions of the Corporations Act. There's all these changes that literally the whole economy just slowed down for 2 years, and no one collected any debt. And what does a good Australian do? Rather than save that money for tax, everyone went and bought themselves a jet ski or built themselves a swimming pool, because you couldn't even leave the country, remember? So
yes,
everyone started renovating the houses, everything else. It created this activity, which is great. But then after 2023, I think from memory, there was 26,000 direct appeal notices that were issued. And I looked up the stats again this morning, just before we jumped on. 2024-25, 84,000 direct appeal notices issued.
Wow.
So those are directors who their company hasn't paid their tax. So after a period of time, if they haven't paid, whether it's usually PAYG or super, you can get done with GST as well. They don't pay the tax. They can issue with a direct appeal notice. They got 21 days to deal with that DPN, either pay it or put the company in liquidation or administration. Otherwise, it could be personally liable. So when it comes to the 4-year lag, it's kicked in overdrive 2024, and 2025, it's actually even more than ever.
And why is the construction industry so hard hit? Like, tell us, for the people listening, tell us about some of the factors that you're seeing that are going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, sure. Like I always see, we call it the domino effect in construction. And because the construction industry, I think it's a fascinating industry, because you got it's the industry with the highest number of insolvency events and highest number of disputes. And you got all these multiple parties, different professions. You got developers, you got builders, you got subcontractors, you got suppliers, you got building design professionals. They're all working together as one project to try to finish a project on time. And if everyone worked on time and didn't have any defects and no dispute in relation to money or anything else, the project would get done. You wouldn't need any lawyers. Would be out of work. That's the reality is. But it's the mentality of parties one's trying to finish one project while the other one's starting, and it never kind of works in sync with each other. And because in construction where, the profit, realistically, some companies work on 2 to 3% profit. So they're doing big jobs, but there's not much profit in the jobs. So if one builder collapses, the domino effect is, well, if a builder collapses because the developer hasn't paid, then the subcontractors rely on that money, the suppliers rely on that money, and it just goes one after the other, the ripple effect.
So that's a good lesson, because where we've seen it happen for businesses, there was one in Queensland, All Roads, I remember, was one of the businesses in Queensland that went under like a couple of years back.
Yep.
And I know for a fact that there were lots of subcontractors and suppliers that were struggling with payments and not being paid and things like that as well. And that was in the civil infrastructure sector. What should companies be doing to protect themselves more from that domino? It's a hard word. Domino catalyst effect.
Yeah, well, I always say, as boring as it sounds, it always comes down to your contracts, because a contract is there in place to protect yourself and your business. So if you don't have a contract in place that protects yourself, so like for example, how do you deal with non-payment? Do you suspend the works? If you're a subcontractor, can you issue a notice of claim of charge to try to make your payment secured? All these kind of things, it all falls back onto your contracts. And unfortunately, a lot of builders, particularly where I see in the SME market, you're dealing with tier one contractors. They've got their own in-house lawyers. They've got law firms on a panel, But the SME market, which is 95% of the market in Australia, some of these small builders just don't have that. And they might have contracts, but they don't know how to use them. So there's no point having a contract if you don't understand how it works.
Tell me more about that. So they have the contract a lot of the time, but they don't know how to interpret and then execute.
Yeah.
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 How should they be approaching it when they're under these contracts? What do they need to be familiar with in their contracts to make sure that they're across it?
They need to know the payment terms. They need to understand variations and EOT claims, when to issue them. I mean, these days, I've got 2 large matters which are running close to trial in the Supreme Court, and we're acting now not for the builder because the builder's gone liquidation. So we're acting for the liquidator, trying to go against the developer and trying to get the money back.
Yeah.
And they have the same issues: unauthorized variations, EOT claims, liquidated damages, defects. They're always the main ones that come up.
Yeah.
Time again. And the thing is, under a contract, there's certain time bars. So you need to issue a notice within a certain period of time, otherwise you can't get it. And if you're going to dispute it, you need to issue in a certain period of time, otherwise there's deeming provisions as well. So, I mean, I look at an example like as for a law firm, we get a new practice management system, right? It has all these great features, but I don't know how to use it. We have to get a consultant who works for the company to show us how to use the practice management system. And it's the same thing for the poor builders. I understand why they get this frustration is because they get a contract in place, but they don't know how to use it. And every time they need to understand how it works, they got to call the lawyer. And that's got to be something that, at least they should understand the bare minimum, the basics.
Makes it hard, doesn't it? Because they get into building and I see it as well with engineers. So a lot of the engineers now on projects are required to be not just know the planning and procurement and all that side of it as well, but to understand and almost feel apparently I got told recently it's very different in the UK to Australia as an example, because in Australia we expect our engineers on projects to have the commercial knowledge and to understand the contract and to often submit claims and things like that, which is a lot on engineering professionals
Very onerous,
on projects.
isn't it? Yeah.
So if you were to look at common mistakes that people make when setting up the contract, things that are missed, what have you noticed? The errors you're seeing later on that can be catastrophic when they miss that when they're setting up their contracts.
Yeah, look, I think one of the biggest disputes you always see time and time again is that there's a misunderstanding between what is the actual scope of works and what is a variation. And, you see these in large contracts and in small contracts. So I think if people spend the builders spend the time to go through, whether it's with a mum and dad homeowner or you're dealing with a bigger contractor or developer, understanding the scope of works and the realistic expectations between both parties to understand what is a variation and to make sure that if you're going to have to do a variation, you issue it within time, you give the notice and so forth.
Yeah.
All those little minor details, they do save you in the long run.
How do you know, I mean, and I'm going to put it in layman's terms for me as well, how do you know, we're doing building works on our home at the moment too, how do you know the difference between what's within scope and variation? Like should that be communicated at the time, or what's the process that somebody that's building, whether that be a commercial project or doing works on your home, should be doing as soon as they identify that it's out of scope?
The owners should go back onto the builder in those circumstances. So if they'd be given a direction on site and the builder is of the view that's outside the scope of works, well then the builder needs to bring it to the principal's attention. That's usually called a notice of variation. And they need to say this is outside the scope, and then within a certain period of days they need to then give an estimate on how much more it's going to cost to do that variation. And unfortunately, if you're a mum and dad homeowner, you're gonna be looking and going, well, how do I know? Sometimes you need to then get a building consultant to have a look at that for you if it's a large variation, or if you want to look at your plans and look at your specifications, try to work out if it's actually part of the scope of works or not.
So and when we're looking at it, what about this? People talk about the fact that, and I was at a recent QMCA event, and a couple of people spoke to me about bids that were being won that were really low bid, and then the client's strategy is to win back money on variations. So
Yeah.
bid it really low. Is there a bit of a culture of that in the industry as
A
well?
big culture of that in the industry. It happens a lot. You see a lot of these builders who are undercutting themselves. You know, they're going really low to win the tender,
Mm.
and then they're trying to make up for in variations. And or they undercut themselves so much that, you know, again, the supply chain issues with COVID,
Mm.
the price of materials has gone up at 25-30%.
Mm.
So if you undercut yourself that much,
Yeah.
and then the cost of materials have gone up, cost of labor has gone up as well. So they end up going, well, they financially can't actually finish the job.
Mm.
They can't finish a project. So the only way they're going to try to make up for it is trying to sneak in some variations if they can.
Mm.
Even when COVID happened, you saw a lot of it. Not that much anymore, but you still see it, is that a lot of builders would try to sneak in a cost escalation as a variation. They're two very different things. You know, one's a cost escalation, and the other one's a variation.
Yeah. Tell me about the difference between the two. You know, I'm going to ask.
So cost escalation clauses were introduced after COVID, supply chain issues. So in circumstances where the cost of materials may have gone up and it's outside of the builder's control, if you have a well-drafted cost escalation clause in there, you can issue a escalation notice to the end user, whether it's a developer or a homeowner and so forth, that allows you to pass on the cost of the materials to the other party. So you pass those costs. So you've quoted on a particular price. Say, for example, the price of concrete's gone up. You're able to then pass those costs on to the other party.
Okay.
Yeah.
And why do you think people were muddying the waters between the two? Was it because they didn't have cost escalation of the contract and they're trying to recoup from variations? Yeah, right.
Yeah, I feel like it was a new era for everyone with that after COVID, and a lot of builders are trying to put in a variation as a cost escalation, which you can't necessarily do because you're not varying the works.
No.
It's the scope is still the same. It's just the increase in the materials or the increase in labor, for example. So I mean, you still the thing is no, everyone was going to try to do it until someone decides in court whether it can be done or can't be done. A decision came out a few years ago in district court, I remember, and it gave some guidance as what should be included in a cost escalation, warnings they need to be put into the contract and so forth. Even when it happened, I remember a lot of the banks weren't lending on cost escalation clauses because they're too open-ended. You know, it'd be too much of the LVR for the bank to lend.
Has that changed? Because the challenge we've got now, I guess we're looking at a pipeline, not yet, but it's coming, where we've got so much activity at the same time, which is going to put massive pressure.
With the Olympics coming up.
Yeah, we've got the Olympics, we've got commitments in water, we've obviously got all these houses to build. We've got a housing crisis as well. So we've got this catalyst or this perfect storm where everything's going to be busy at the same time. What's the danger in that for the sector?
Yeah, I think the danger is you can see it happening already, where a lot of the builders they spread themselves too thin. So they might sign a contract for today that starts, say for argument's sake, in 12 months' time. They go, I've got a window of 12 months. I'll be able to fit a few more projects in. Then they start a few projects, but then those projects get delayed to finish them. So before they know it, they've got to start the one that they should have started, the one they signed 12 months ago, and then they really spread themselves too thin. And that's going to be an issue, I think, for a lot of builders. Well,
and then the problem is we have a skill shortage too. So it's, you've got the combination of committing yourself 12 months down the track, and then also when it comes time to hit the ground with those projects, if you've got people tied up or resources tied up in other jobs, then you don't have the people to deliver the work.
I think you're going to find a lot of skilled migrants move into Australia for that particular reason, and a lot of the companies from interstate will be coming to Queensland to do some work here as well.
Yeah, I have noticed that. I've noticed a real movement or shift from companies. A lot of companies from Sydney and Melbourne now setting up and moving into Queensland. I know of rail, transport and main roads consultancies. It's there's
and pushing hard into and getting licensed here because QBCC is a very big moving beast in Australia, and particularly with Queensland anyway. But the license applications are quite severe.
So what advice would you give then to companies coming into Queensland or moving their business here? What are some of pitfalls or risks that they need to be aware of when they're coming and doing business in this state?
Yeah, sure. I guess is know your no matter what state you go to, know the legislation of that particular state, because the the building regulations and the acts are different. It's sad to say, but it's different in every single state. So
Mm.
it would be great if we just had one uniform Commonwealth legislation for building, but we don't.
Mm.
So although we have got security payments legislation and building acts and codes, the implications are different every state. And then you got the QBCC, whereas New South Wales, the Office for Trading. So you got different governing bodies as well. So if you're going to come into Queensland to do it, understand the Queensland legislation.
Mm. One of the things, I guess we're talking a lot around legislation, contracts, but there's also a real human element behind these businesses, because no doubt you get to know the people you're dealing with. These people have families, companies and things like that as well, that they're either trying to save or unable to save. Tell me about some of the more human stories that you've had and people you've dealt with that have kind of left an impact or an imprint on you.
Yeah, look, I do a lot of work, like I said to you, and Lauren, in the SME market. So I feel like those ones are the ones who struggle the most, and they put their whole lives on the line here, and to have to look after I guess a director of a building company that loses all of it and loses the license. Not only do they lose the company, but then they're a disqualified individual for a few years as well, so they can't even have another license. They have the house on the line as well because they're geared up to the eyeballs. It's a very difficult thing to try to guide them through the whole process, and they have to then look at trying to set up another company if they can after a period of few years. It's a big lesson for them.
Mm. What have you found? Like, how do you approach those situations where you can support those people during that time when they probably need you most?
Well, we provide them with pre-appointment advice to work out what if a company is going to go liquidation. Once they go see the liquidator at the end of the day is an officer of the court, and they're going to put the liquidator hat on, and they have to investigate whether there's been any insolvent trading, whether there's been any commercial transactions, and they may, if necessary, have to go after the director for all those things. So if a director is going to go, if the director's at that stage where they go, I might have to look at liquidating my company, go see a lawyer first, because we give you the pre-appointment advice. We look at what your personal exposure is, and we say to you, look, you may be pursuing for the following things. These are things you need to be mindful of.
Yeah.
So setting yourself up before you go do it.
Yeah. Where have you been able to turn it around and save businesses as well with legal advice?
Yeah, restructuring is a big thing that we do. So we try to restructure their business. So, if they have a situation where the business has just got too much debt, you try to restructure that business and try to get some of that debt reduced. That's through voluntary administration is a big one. After COVID, small business restructure was introduced. So it's been a huge impact in the construction industry. So any business where if you got under $1 million worth of debt, you have been complying with your tax every year. So you're lodging your tax. You don't have any outstanding liabilities or anything else. You don't have any unpaid super. You could qualify for an SBR. So when it first came through, and the biggest creditor is always the ATO, for example. The ATO has to do a role in trying to collect as much debt as they can. But with the SBRs coming through, they're trying to give these small businesses a lifeline, and they just need some breathing space. They might have $800,000 worth of debt, and they go, well, what can I do? And that way, the liquidator would package it all together and try to make a proposal to all the creditors saying, will you accept, for argument's sake, 20 or 30 cents on the dollar?
So was that I didn't know anything about that. So that's a service that small business restructure.
Yep.
So that's I guess businesses with the under $1 million, so smaller businesses.
Yep.
They can then just access that. That's free, or how does that sort of work?
Yeah, so they go see a lawyer to get the advice to do that, and then have to work with a liquidator. So they have to have some fees to pay for it. But if you look at it like in a perspective, if you're paying some fees, the legal fees and liquidators fees, and put a proposal to try to reduce, say, $500,000 worth of debt, it's definitely light the other end of the tunnel.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So tell me more about what you expect to see now going forward. I mean, we've got a bit of a lag with some of the projects being awarded.
Yep.
What are you expecting to see in the industry, in construction infrastructure and SMEs over the next 12 to 24 months? Let me know, I guess, share with me some of the trends and things that you're keeping an eye on.
Yeah, look, I think the construction industry in terms of insolvency is going to keep going. It hasn't slowed down yet. It's slowed down a little bit, not really though. It's like it's still going strong. I have a lot of clients that say to me that the storm is coming. You know, particularly a lot of the subcontractors. They're the ones that see it more than anyone. You know, and I always have this this kind of ideology. It's called like the chicken before the egg concept. Is that if you're already hearing the rumors that a company is in financial distress, they're not paying anyone, well then before you know it, everyone starts talking about it. So the subcontractors stop doing work, the suppliers stop supplying, so then that company is forced to go into liquidation.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like human psychology kind of thing in a lot of ways. It's quite interesting because then it's like, was that company actually financially insolvent, or was it because of the rumor that's getting spreading that actually made the company financially insolvent?
It's almost like that self-fulfilling prophecy, right?
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, but it's run by a rumor mill. You
Yeah,
know, we all
exactly.
the company's like saying, you know, they're struggling to pay their bills. Then people hear about it, don't want to do work with them, and then it's just a catalyst effect.
Catalyst effect. It just keeps going and going. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, the construction industry is a huge industry that, you know, subcontractors all talk to each other. Before you know it, if there is someone who's not paying, it has a huge effect.
One of the things that you spoke about before, what I wanted to touch on is restructuring, because I'm seeing heaps of it at the moment. Like a lot of the time, I think the businesses that I know that want to thrive and grow adjust when the markets change, and they restructure themselves and their teams accordingly to go,
Yep.
okay, we know that there's going to be a shift here. Because if I've learned anything about a business, you know, there are different markets and different life cycles that demand different skills and expertise and a different team structure from your team.
Yeah.
Tell me about some of the restructures you've been involved in that have improved businesses that you've worked with.
Yeah. So when we talk about restructure, it's about whether the company goes into administration. So administrators appointed, and we work with a director to try to put forward what's called a deed of company arrangement. So it's put forward a DOCA, and it's more with the director going, okay, well, what have I done wrong as to why my business is like this? It's similar to an SBR as well. You have to kind of, with an SBR, you have to provide a director's statement. So it's explanation as to what happened, and then let's work out a strategy on how you can reduce some of your debt. So whether you can get a discount on your debt, write off some debt, and how can you move forward through your business, you know. Whether you have to let go some, unfortunately, have to let go some staff, some costs and some expenses, but they look at where your key projects are and so forth, and try to move to the next phase and adapt in a lot of ways too. A lot of businesses will adapt and move into another area, so forth.
You touched on something before, which I think is really key that you spoke about, which is, you know, the danger as businesses trying to be everything to everyone, taking on too much. So that there's that need to remain focused. Is that something you've done in your business too? As you've grown, have you had a real focus on what you wanted to do in a strategy?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great example, Lauren, is that, you know, we spread ourselves in different areas, and sometimes areas haven't been as profitable as other areas as well. So I like to, I mean, I always stick to what I know in a lot of ways, and my focus has always been business services, commercial litigation, construction, insolvency, those kind of areas. You know, there are, at the end of the day, you know, if you're going to specialize in a particular area, just stick to your specialty in some ways and others, and it comes with construction. You know, there are so many different trades. So stick to what you know and do it well, I think.
And so how do you balance, from your perspective, because I think that the way that you've grown through acquisition of different businesses is a really interesting model. How do you balance having that niche, but also with diversification, so you're not too heavily at risk in one market, that if there's, you know, lags in projects being awarded, or there is, you know, say you're working with a couple of key clients and they have cash flow issues. So how do you balance, you know, and you've probably had to do it yourself, that diversification and looking at other markets with cash flow and the things that are really important to keep a business running?
Yeah, it's actually an interesting point because when COVID happened, I always thought that litigation was it was just foul proof. Like, you know, whether the economy is good or the economy is bad, people are always going to sue each other. But COVID was the first time we actually experienced where there was a slowdown for 2 years, pretty much on suing. Nobody wants to sue someone in a global pandemic, so you're working on your existing matters, but no new matters are coming through. But at the same time, there was the highest number of divorces after COVID.
Of course, because
so our family little practice is doing great. So I was sitting around just drinking coffees, just trying to get some work in, but our family practices went through the roof. So you talk about that diversification, that balance there. Yeah, it makes a big difference. And how do you do it? It's a hard thing to try to put a put a kind of formula in there to it. So in some ways, it's more just trying to make sure that I guess every practice area is making that profit going through, and not to invest too much into one particular area.
Yeah, and when you're choosing on taking it, like what I find really interesting is when you're looking at acquiring practices and things like that. And I think this is really interesting for companies that do want to sell one day. What do you look at? How do you assess a practice or a senior practitioner that you're going to acquire? What are the things you look at that are good signs that it's a healthy business and a healthy client pipeline?
Looking at the key staff, because they're going to come with a practice. So do they have key staff members that have I guess like an attachment to those clients already? Is that practitioner the sole key finder in terms of the clients? And also it's like I wouldn't get myself into a practice where I don't think I could do the area myself in some way or another. It might be front-end commercial, but at least it's still business services in a lot of ways. There has to be either one of myself or one of my business partners that knows that area in some way or another. Otherwise, for example, if I'm jumping into buying a specialty taxation practice, whilst we do a lot of ATO work, that's a very special niche area, or employment would be a great area to find. But again, otherwise you're heavily reliant on the practitioner that you've just acquired the practice from to keep running that practice.
Yeah. So you're very clear about we can diversify, but still within our knowledge base or our niche.
Yeah.
You don't want to go too far out because it's kind of uncharted waters.
Uncharted waters within our call like our safety zone in some way or another.
Have you ever got it wrong?
There's a couple of practices that haven't been as profitable as others. It does happen.
What did you learn from that? Because I think a lot of time we talk about where it goes well, but I think when it doesn't or when you miss something, what did you maybe miss?
Yeah. I guess due diligence in a lot of ways. You dive into a practice and you think it's great and everything else, but you really are going to ask those questions and narrow it down. And a lot of times there's been law firms which we've missed because their due diligence was too much, and another firm has come along and made them offer straight away.
Wow.
And we're there. Well, thank you very much. We're going to take that offer. So, on me, for him, I'd rather just be what have I learned. I'd rather be more safe than sorry. So I will ask all those questions and take our time with the due diligence to make sure it's actually a right fit. And that's a big thing too, the right fit with the culture and everything as well.
How do you determine that? Like, do you have a blueprint on your own culture that you kind of assess each practitioner against, or what's your approach to kind of know? Because this is the hard part when you have mergers and acquisitions. You're bringing in that person's clients and capability, but also their learned habits, their learned behaviors, their culture too.
It's difficult to work it out, but as simple as it might sound, is that if I can't see myself working with the senior practitioner because he's coming across with everyone and you're or her and heavily reliant on that transitional period is usually 12, 24 months to work with that particular person and the clients. So if you don't see yourself being able to have a coffee with them or have a beer with them and have a lunch with them, well, then it might not be the right fit.
It's actually really important.
It's a psychological thing, isn't it?
I don't know. Like when I first started the business, and I feel, I guess, a bit embarrassed being a recruiter to say this, but like I'd always say to look at the culture fit for my clients and go, that's really important. And then when it was my own business, I'd go, well, if they've got all the technical, I can work with culture. When I first started. And I quickly realized I was wrong with that, because I think you can sometimes be blindsided as a leader or in your own business because you're short, you need help, and you get someone that comes through and they tick all the boxes of skills and experience. You don't have to train them. They know the market, they know your area, they know your clients. But, there's just that slight feeling you're like, they don't fit, or you sort of go, I don't know that I'd have a beer with you, or you seem a bit stuck in your ways and inflexible. Anytime that I've had that feeling and gone with it anyway, I've regretted it.
Because go with your gut, isn't it?
Go with your
crazy,
gut.
isn't it?
I still believe in gut instinct. It's 100%. Massive when you're either bringing someone's business into the fold or hiring someone for your own team. I think there is still that gut instinct. Would you have a beer with that person? Would you spend time with them day in, day out in an office together? Because that's the reality of that's what's going to be like.
No, 100%. And it's funny because like even if it's taken over a practice where they come on board as a partner, would go lunch with them. And if I come see myself having a beer and a lunch with a particular partner, well, then it might not be the right fit.
No.
Yeah.
And I think as well, team players. So this is I bang on about this. My team all knows I've been talking about this. I think team players is massive as well. When you get people that can work and play well with others.
Yeah.
I think sometimes we can, you get individual contributors. That's kind of the challenge that you've got. You're bringing people that have had their own firm, but you have to make sure that they're going to get along with the rest of your team as well.
100%.
Yeah. How do you spot a team player?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I've had a lot of bad eggs over the years.
Share us. I love the bad egg story. We learn from them.
A senior lawyer that they might do everything right. They work well with the clients, to be honest, but they're just not good with the staff. And they, it makes it hard then for the staff to then work with that particular senior lawyer. So then they create their own island within the team.
Silos. Yeah.
Yeah, their own silo within the team. And then when that senior lawyer might move on, then you realize that no one else liked that particular senior lawyer. And they go, well, wow. It's like, and the team environment's enriched again in some way or another.
And
it's hard to pick them.
No, you can't always see it. Do you think there's any red flags when you look back on it to see it? Or is it the kind of thing that it just sort of comes out when they're in the team?
Yeah. I don't know. It's quite an interesting thing because sometimes I just don't see it, and sometimes I pick it. And then you think you know it all, and then it happens again. Like, oh, I just didn't see that one.
I think that this is the honest truth as well. I don't think anybody is perfect at hiring or recruitment. I mean, and because it's human nature, and humans are so complex.
Yeah.
You can put as much in place to mitigate and make sure who you're getting is going to be a good team player. But there's going to be things, because we're coming from our own biases and our own subjective view of the world and who we hire and our own experiences, that there's just going to be time to time where it doesn't work out.
Yeah,
I think you take something every time. You go, okay, I know to ask this question here because I missed that, and that was something that didn't work out.
Yeah. We even got to the stage where we're doing the you must get it for your clients do a psychoanalysis.
Yeah, we do psychometrics.
So we're doing some of those ones, and then stopped doing it for a while because had a couple of bad eggs that came through anyway. So it just it makes it difficult.
Yeah, it's hard. The psychometric, I like them as a tool, but so my degree was psychology, and from an actual reliability and validity, it blew my mind when I was learning about it. They're not super high from a stats point of view. Like, they're a guide, but their predictability of predicting performance is super low.
Yeah.
So it's a good guide to show what the person is going to show up like.
Yeah.
But in terms, is that going to predict how they perform at work? No.
Yeah. Okay.
What it can tell you is the type of personality you're getting, so you know what you're signing up for.
And you feel like they can actually kind of manipulate those answers as well?
I think so.
Yeah,
I do.
What I think. Yeah.
I think as well, I think that's why when you look at psychometrics, it can never be something in isolation. So I still think, and I bang on about this. Reference checks, competency behavioural interviewing. So asking people to talk about what they have done in the past, not what they would or could or should do. I still think past behaviour is the best predictor of future behaviour.
True.
So if they tell you what they've done and then you see it show up in a psychometric, it's like, for me, it's like validating a decision and minimizing your risk of getting it wrong. It's still going to happen from time to time.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. I find too in law, because everyone knows everyone in law, if you don't put down your last references, but you're putting somebody else down. I'll still get phone calls from someone checking a reference for someone that didn't put us down, for example.
Oh,
so it happens all the time because everyone knows everyone. So in the industry,
it's highly illegal, but everyone does it. So that's just the reality of what it is, because it is a small market, and Brisbane particularly is a small market too. The other thing that's a bit of a red flag, if someone won't give you their any previous managers. So if they've got no one that is a direct report that supervises them, that's always a red flag.
One of their colleagues instead.
Yeah, if it's just one of their colleagues or someone, they won't give you any direct report.
Yeah.
That's a bit of a red flag too. So moving forward, with all the work that you have been doing in starting your own business, obviously doing the construction support for SMEs and builders and construction clients, what's the legacy you want to leave in the sector, in your work, for your life's work?
Yeah, look, I guess legacy, I'm not quite sure how to answer to a legacy, but
someone said to me it sounds like a funeral.
I guess
I just think it's a really interesting question.
it is an interesting question. I guess what I see, what I want to do, I guess when I say my next 20 years, I've been 20 years in the industry, 22 years, 20 years ago, I guess in some ways. I keep because I do litigation. I always get frustrated with some parties. They can never run all the way to trial, or they settle early because the cost of legal costs blow out. So that's the reason why we started with Construction Support Australia. Why I started the whole business is that I want to be able to provide like a subscription model which is transparent costs and make it more easily accessible to the SME market, because you see it all the time. Is like someone go, well, I'm going to settle that particular matter simply because I can't afford the legal fees. And it's when I say legacy, want to leave legacy, I guess it's always provide a transparent legal service to that market, because I see that gap in the market.
What about personally?
Personally, in terms of legacy,
Yeah.
I like to write a few books.
Oh,
honestly.
there you go.
Yeah.
Gonna write a book.
Yeah.
What about?
Nothing to do with law.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess that would be my own personal little goal one day. Is that, I do like, as a hobby, I do write. So to have my book published one day, that'd be great.
And would it be non-fiction or fiction?
It'd be fiction.
Cool.
And I'm going to use an alias name too, so no one knows who I am.
No one will know it's you. Is it like a genre, fantasy, romance? What did kind of?
Well, it is. One is a legal one, which I'm writing now, which I'm getting checked out and everything else. So watch this space. It might.
That's
might
so
see
cool. I always love. That's why I asked that. I always love to hear what people.
Yeah.
Everyone's got like this. It's particularly common with business owners too. A creative side or something else that they do because. As that like outlet as well.
Yeah, a way to shut away from the irony is that because I don't want to write about law, but you end up writing about a character who's a lawyer anyway, because it just kind of fits in so easily.
Yeah. But that's great. Well, you have to let me know when you do eventually write it, because I love reading, so that'd be great. Look, we're going to move into our rocket round now, and this is just where we ask you a few fun questions to learn more about you.
Sure.
Coffee or wine?
Wine.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Cats or dogs?
I'm not really an animal person, but if I have to choose, I'd go dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever owned an animal?
I got a turtle. I got a turtle.
Now you have a turtle?
I've still got a turtle. It's my daughter's turtle now, but I inherited it from a friend of mine many years ago, and I got stuck with it.
How long have you had this turtle?
About 15 years.
What's this turtle's name?
Mickey. Yeah.
I've never had cats or dogs. I've never had someone answer turtles.
Yeah,
So that's a first.
there you go.
Mickey.
Yeah.
Does Mickey come out of the cage, or does Mickey just stay in the cage?
No, he comes out of the tank and he walks around. He chases after my kids. He's
like
great.
he's an actual,
he acts like a dog.
Really?
Yeah.
Like, does he just jump on their lap and things like that?
Yeah. If I'm lying on the floor watching TV, he'll come and crawl on my chest, and he just he hear my voice and he puts his little head up.
Oh, that's so cute.
Yeah, it's pretty cute.
All right, now I need a pet turtle. Favorite holiday destination?
I like to go somewhere where there's a beach.
Yeah. Okay. Any particular ones that you've been recently that had gorgeous beaches?
I just come back from Greek islands. That was great.
Nice.
I was there for July. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Can't beat those beaches. And podcasts that you listen to?
I listened to Joe Rogan Experience.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
I listened to the one the Charlie Sheen one a few weeks ago. That was hilarious.
Was
it?
Was
great. Yeah.
They go for a long time, don't they?
They do go for a long time, and he goes off topic so many times. It's so funny because he speaks something completely random for a good 10, 15 minutes, and they go back onto it again. Yeah.
They're like a week commitment. The podcasts. You got to jump in and then you get back in the car and then you just jump in.
Yeah, I listen to it in traffic.
Yeah. Awesome. And what makes you feel like you're home?
What makes me feel like a home? I guess just home with my kids and my fiance, really. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. And your turtle.
And turtle. Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on as a guest.
Thank you.
How can people learn more about your business? Approach you if they might need help themselves or want to get in touch?
Yeah, just shoot me an email. No obligation chat. Everything else, if they work with a business in either way, whether it's construction or a commercial dispute or even start up a business, so forth, happy to help out. And
I just want to be clear as well. So it's not just businesses that are in trouble. You just help businesses in general that need that ongoing commercial support. So
a lot of those businesses should be more proactive and go, okay, well, can I talk to you about what things I should be mindful of so it doesn't happen? They're the smart ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming as a guest. Look, I really wanted to get you on when Phil had introduced us, because when you told me about that, I felt being a construction podcast, we have to absolutely
Perfect.
talk about it. And I hope that it helps somebody listening today who was maybe changed one thing that they're doing from a contractual point of view, or it's highlighted something that they should be looking at. So thanks so much for coming on as a guest.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
And as always, like, share, subscribe, and review. And please, if you do listen to this podcast and you think someone's going to benefit, please do share it with them. And also reach out to our guests as well. They love to hear when you've got something out of the episode.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. If this episode gave you new insights, don't let them go to waste. Take action, apply them. And if you want more insider strategies from the best in construction and infrastructure, make sure to subscribe. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, the leaders who open the most doors aren't waiting for opportunities, they're building them.